All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. So, what I wanted to go ahead and do, I wanted to open the live stream a little bit early. This is being recorded, so I may be able to send this out to a few folks that may be able to participate, or maybe those folks who were not able to join the live stream. But we're on LinkedIn, we're also on YouTube Live right now. So, we're going to give it a few minutes. If you've joined or once you've joined, feel free to go in the chat and just comment, say hey, say hi, raise your hand, those kinds of things, and then we'll get started. But yeah, definitely looking forward to sharing this huge announcement, something that we're going to be able to do to help employers, candidates, also speakers. There's a huge opportunity for speakers to be introduced to a whole new audience as well. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to connecting with everybody, and feel free to say hi or raise your hand in the chat, okay? Sorry, I was on mute. So we have Misty. Hey, thank you so much for joining. John, it's really nice to see you. Definitely know we've connected a few times. Gabrielle, it's nice to meet you. Betty, hey, it's really nice to see you. I got this time slot or this time slot idea from when we had our live stream. So it's really nice to see you as well. Sarah, pleasure seeing you again. I did see that comment that you left for us this morning. So thank you again for chiming in. And you let me know if you can hear me clearly or if it's a little bit soft, a little bit too loud. Ryan, wow. Such a pleasure to see you. It's been a long time. We should definitely connect after this or catch up in the DMs, okay? And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and get started in one moment. The fantastic thing about technology is that this is being recorded. So for those folks that I may send this out to a little bit later, I didn't want there to be, let's say, too much, just blank space. And Sarah, thank you for the feedback that I do sound pretty clear. So I didn't want there to be too much blank space. Hey, Tara, thank you so much for joining. It's been a pleasure working with you as of recent, and look forward to collaborating a lot more in the near future. So where should we go ahead and get started? I want to give each and every one of you a little bit more about my background and how I got started in HIM RCM, and I think that's going to really help pave the way of what I see or the opportunities that I see that we have here in revenue cycle. So when I got started in 2011, I didn't have any experience recruiting. They gave me an opportunity because I was referred in by somebody that was really renowned and a peak performer. I didn't know that that person, that individual, my mentor, referred two or three other people that also became renowned and peak performers. And in the back office of staffing and recruiting, we're talking about recruiters and salespeople. So they gave me an opportunity to produce. And when I talk about produce, this would mean that I'd be hiring on my own coders and bring them on board for the company that I was working with, a huge company. I think even to this day, they're one of the largest players in the staffing business for HIM candidates. And the fantastic thing is the I had great mentors. And the territory and the states that they assigned me were, I remember they were North and South Dakota, Minnesota, as well as like Iowa. All right. So I had these four states. Okay. And within these four states, I was following up on two of my large mentors in the industry, and these folks were juggernauts. I'm talking like they recruited everybody. Not only that, our ideal niche was either extremely high level prophy or physician coders, also like high level facility based or acute care based coders, medical coders. So I'm talking about inpatient coders with teaching trauma, transplants, the whole nine, outpatient, same day surgery, ED or ER. I used to call it ER a lot more back then, more ED, emergency department right now. And as much as I tried and I grinded for months to try my best to find medical coders within my 4 states, I wasn't finding them. I also was in a relationship with the love of my life, my wife now, and for me, this wasn't just an opportunity to have a good job at a good and growing company. This is also my livelihood because I left a job to start this new job and start this new career. I also wanted to have enough funds and means and substance so I can, I had a house, but, get married and all of these things. So for me, it was a lot more than a job. And no matter how much time I put into it, I realized that I was also very limited by the scope or the people that I was able to reach. Now, the interesting thing was social media recruiting wasn't really a thing back then, okay, in 2011. It also was open territory for a lot of recruiters. But a lot of these recruiters I was following up with, I mean, they had their network. For example, they already knew 400 to 500 coders, and we were all asked to make like 50 or so calls a day. They can just rotate on a daily basis, making 45 to 10 to 50 calls, and they would meet their quota. When you're at the peak performer level, they don't really measure in those metrics because they know if you need it to fill 2 coding jobs, you can probably make 2 to 4 phone calls or just get referred in because people are also coming in and applying to work with us that we can also go ahead and hire people. So it was I was up against a wall, but there was also something called, social media recruiting, and it wasn't a thing. I remember back in the day, I used to post jobs to LinkedIn. Okay, listen up, guys. I used to post jobs to LinkedIn, and my hand would get slapped by LinkedIn. So we had corporate recruiting licenses with LinkedIn, and we had the representatives at LinkedIn at the company that would work close with us. And I remember working with them and trying my best to be like, hey, let's just say, is it okay to post jobs? Or if I post a job, like, will I not get like shadow banned? And essentially, what they would do was they would make either your posts, like, they would delete your post for one thing, or like for the big association in their groups, when I post jobs in their groups, my post would either be deleted and I would be banned. Like anything that I sent over or I posted had to be viewed by a moderator. And after a while, I got in conversations with those moderators and the admins of those groups and those associations, and they definitely opened it up. It's very interesting. If you post in the same groups right now or just visit them, it's totally a free market. People are posting jobs from India and all over the place. So definitely a lot more relaxed and a different situation. But me being shadow banned and also not being able to post freely on different forums and find my own coders drove me to start 2 groups on LinkedIn. So the first one was jobs for, sorry, remote medical coding professionals. That one right now has over 22,000 members. Each of them, I've actually viewed myself and made sure and qualified them for those groups. And Coder Nation. And between that, as well as, even though I was banned and even though I didn't really have a lot of territorial states to recruit in, I still was the type of person to put myself out there because my livelihood was at stake, but also I saw it as a huge opportunity. Fast forward to the end of my first year, I became a peak performer. I had close to 70 hires in my first year without any prior recruiting experience. Not only that, the year before, the peak performing recruiter had around 35 or so hires. So social media definitely changed everything, but also with me posting and with me being out there, I used to go to conferences. I used to just be on going to the store or outlets with my family, and coders would approach me or say, "Hey Bertram, how are you doing?" I'm like, "Hey, how are you? Like, how do we happen to know each other?" And like, "Hey, I see your job post on this group." I'm like, "Fantastic. Like, if you wouldn't mind me asking your skill set, what do you code?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm an impatient coder." I'm like, "Good," because that means that the content and what I'm putting out there in the world is getting to the relevant people. Um, Fast forward to where we are now. I started my recruiting agency 5 or so years ago. We've been doing mostly perm recruiting. We are getting to doing more flex staffing, and that's definitely something that we are very excited about because we know all the people. We have QA managers, we have the support and the team to do that. But when you're starting something from the ground up, it doesn't mean you can always do that from day one. So we're also very excited about that. But what I'm more excited about is this presentation. I wanted to bring us together to see where we can possibly grow and if we have opportunities. And I got an invite for a networking webinar, and a light bulb just went off for me. And I'm going to jump into the presentation and kind of bring us back to where we are at right now. Okay. All right. So thank you again for joining. If you've just you know joined, feel free to go ahead and comment. I'm going to go through the slides and share with you a little bit more about as the opportunity that we have and how not only that this is going to necessarily be some type of like service for us to provide you, but also just for everybody to use. So I think one of the things and one of the ways that we're going to go against the norm is our openness to collaborating with other firms or other companies, vendors, employers as well. Okay. All right. So this presentation by me is definitely to focus on the opportunities that we have in revenue cycle management. And the reason why I wanted to focus on revenue cycle management and not just medical coding, because we have to realize that this is a big picture. Yes, we are within medical coding. HIM and revenue cycle departments are huge, and a lot of our focus has been definitely on, let's say, finding those acute care inpatient coders, and that's absolutely fine. But there's a lot more than that. There's also more, I would say, on the front of the house, we like to call it, right? When it comes into the patient intake and the registration and all of that, and also on the back end, whether that be collections, final payment on the payer side. Right now, a lot of the hospitals in the US are feeling pain, not necessarily on the front end, getting the applicants or the patients to come through. It's actually on the back end. It's the denials process, right? It's the payer saying, hey, we'll usually pay you within 90 days, but without rhyme or reason, now the hospitals are being paid at 180 or later days. The denial rates, as we've all have heard as of recent, has gone up. So just focusing on the middle, or let's say, for example, just having the best coders that you can will help with a lot of that back end, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to go all the way through just because you have super effective inpatient coders. Because from what I've heard and discussions that I've had, it's just more as the, how I say, the nature of the business right now. And this isn't just, let's say, affecting some states or some of the clients I've talked to in the South. It's not just affecting them. It's really across the board. A lot of the headlines that we've heard from some large payers or not, have also talked about that as well. So, we definitely have seen and understand that it's a lot more than just coding, and this is what it's going to really be all about. And if you are familiar or not, what I wanted to do was to go over a quick SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis is a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis to show us what we may really have or what we may not necessarily have within our industry. And my focus has been on connecting growth, because at the end of the day, what is a recruiter? I've been, hired and worked as a recruiter for most of my career in HIM. And what is a recruiter? I view a recruiter as somebody that connects people. And when I say that is I am going ahead and saying that, hey, I am working for this company or I know this company and I found this person that they're looking for. And as a recruiter, I'm just a middle person. I'm just connecting the two. I don't have the skill sets of these coders or these professionals that we're hiring. And also, I'm not at this time providing them those job opportunities. So I'm spending a lot of time connecting people. So for me, my passion has really been in connecting and helping those. And it doesn't always necessarily have to be something that's going to affect the bank account. I also know that if you take care of people, people tend to take care of you. So for me, it's not necessarily about counting checks and balances or crossing T's and dotting I's. It's been more about how can I go ahead and help us connect. And I feel not just with COVID and everything that happened back in 2020, I feel it's just become normal day that we are getting less and less connected, even though we have these devices and they're supposed to help us be more connected, right? You go to a restaurant, maybe you and the people that you're with, you guys are having fantastic conversation, but you can easily look across and see couples, families, a lot of times children, just on their devices. I'm not against devices. We utilize them all the time. I have family over in Korea, so when we're talking to family over in Korea, or like, hey, my kids will say, call grandma. We appreciate the technology, but it's something that's supposed to help us be more connected. LinkedIn, for example, is supposed to help us be more connected, but I feel like we're getting disconnected. Okay. So, let's jump into the slides, and I think it's going to be pretty self-explanatory. So the strengths, definitely for the strengths that we have in our industry is that it is a huge industry. You don't just have to be in coding. You don't just have to be in denials. You can really be all across the spectrum on the board. It also creates a lot of opportunity for those folks looking to get started. I know a lot of folks want to go straight into doing coding, and that's fantastic, but maybe you can start off in doing, let's say, billing, maybe more in intake or registry, maybe in enrollment, maybe in credentialing. But as you are somewhat close to the revenue cycle or just with the patient information and the medical records, that can lead to a whole lot of things. I've also seen folks, let's say from the coding perspective, go on to be managers to directors to then working more in the back office when it comes to the denials process, working with the legal teams at some of these facilities as to if they process or deny, or if they're very complicated cases. Let's say it's a undocumented immigrant or something like that, right? Hey, what are we supposed to do with this person? Or this person is an inpatient, this person is in our facility and every day it's costing us this much. How can we take care of this situation? I came to find out, I went to a conference a couple weeks ago, there are actually people and companies you can hire to help you in those types of situations. Let's say, Spanish is not somebody from your facility's main language. They have interpreters and they have people over there and they work with embassies and they can help ship people. They're also doing connections as well, right? But it's not just coding, it's a lot more than coding. And that's a great thing because it does provide a great opportunity for us to connect. We also have two or three or four, depending on who you'd ask, very large associations. They provide credentialing, they provide education, they provide opportunities for us to connect. That is a huge plus. Okay. In recruiting, in HIM recruiting, for example, we don't necessarily have an association. We can go to certain associations outside of ourselves and get credentials and things, but they're also not necessarily relevant to what we do. We probably should have something. For example, how many recruiters can say that they know the difference between profi coding and hospital-based coding, and be able to look at a resume without talking to an individual, asking them any questions to know exactly which is which? You can't just go by credentials. Somebody on LinkedIn this morning, I work with them. They were an auditor for one of our teams, and they first started out on the profi coding side. They had a CPC. Now I just saw that this person, got their CCS, right? They've gone to the other side of the house. And just because you start on one doesn't mean you only stay on one. So large associations are fantastic, but there's also a lot of movement within those associations and the credential careers. It's fantastic because it helps people or job opportunities find you. It helps you stand out from the peers. I remember working, even before I worked in the HIM industry, I remember working with these ladies that were doing a peer enrollment with providers, and they were talking about how their friends were making so much money being in coding, and they got all their coding books and they're studying to get credentialed to be coders, but they never went ahead and got their credentials. They never took the test. So just with there being some type of proctored exam, it also creates barriers, or it creates a wall of, if you really want to get it, you're going to have to climb that wall to go ahead and get it. So it's one of those things that the credential is definitely a good thing because it helps folks. I mean, there are enough folks like Ryan, I know you have a bunch, Betty as well. I mean, these folks have multiple credentials. Ryan, I know I've joked with you a few times because based upon your title, I mean, I think you're running out of letters. And definitely LinkedIn can fit all of those credentials on there, right? But that's a good thing because it shows that you're really going above and beyond like just getting those credentials, but you're applying them as well. So weaknesses that we have for our industry is that we are highly segmented. And what I mean by that is a lot of parts of our, I mean, hospitals are already, I would say, somewhat work in silos, right? But what tends to happen is that vendors are not talking to each other, right? Employers are not talking to each other. I'm talking about the other hospitals are not necessarily talking to each other, right? And it's hard to network. What I mean by it's hard to network is that we usually have, depending on the conference or the association that you're associated with, we usually have one to two to three, four, somewhat less than that, opportunities to network together and be in person, not necessarily just for the ECUs, but just to like meet people. And it's even harder than that because of how things have gone. Usually, like in the past, I'm talking 2000, 21, 2011, HM directors, HI managers, the decision makers used to go to those conferences. They used to network, used to be able to go over to those conferences and do a lot of business and meet hire managers and get hired, right? Not just because of COVID, but also because of approvals. And I mean, I talk to directors on a daily basis, and they are not getting the funds or they're not getting the approval to go to these conferences. So for them, it's not just about, hey, if I go, I need to pay for it. It's also, it's going to be the best use of my time, or do I even have the capacity? Because if I'm short staffed, and if I'm leaving for 3, 4 days, or even just one day, then that creates challenges for them to come back to work. So they also have to weigh the equation of, is it worth it? Or if I went last year, maybe I don't go this year. And some of them, if they go, they only pop in for a little bit, or they only go to a networking event and then they come back. So it's also becoming harder and harder to network. One of the things as well is that we don't have a lot of opportunity to do skill sharing. So you used to be able to get hired at a facility on site, start out as an ED coder or profi coder, then go to ED, then go to outpatient same day surgery, and then go to inpatient. Now, usually how it's segmented and there's not a lot of cross training being done by most of the vendors or even by the hospitals, it's very hard for you to grow from, let's say, outpatient to inpatient. It's very extremely hard because what happens? Everybody wants 3 years of experience. And I see a really huge opportunity for employers to allow their people to be cross-trained and to grow into other skill sets. Um, but for them, they may not necessarily get the opportunity. I also understand from the vendor side, for example, if I have somebody billing as an ED coder, I can't just all of a sudden call the client and say, hey, can you let them go and do their outpatient coding, because what happens? Those are going to be live charts. There's going to be money on them. The employer has to pay them for doing the work. So it also can get very complicated. But on site at the facility, they used to do the coding. They used to have their subject matter experts or their mentors right next to them. Maybe something done after hours. You used to audit them, train them, educate them, and get them going. Their retention in those types of areas was fantastic, but it's also something that's become very hard as well. Okay. Appreciate the feedback. Victoria, thank you so much for joining. It's nice to see you. Okay. Opportunities. We definitely need more events to network, and we also need cost-effective options. It is very expensive to attend a conference. I live in Florida in the Tampa Bay area, and Orlando's not too far from me. I can go up for a morning and be back, or there are plenty of hotels that we can stay at, and that's fantastic. But what if you're out of state? What if you are, I don't know, manage your business, or what if you are trying to go? There are also, I definitely see an opportunity where we can definitely have a lot more opportunities to network and just be more cost effective. Does it really cost x amount of dollars for us to network? Conference I went to, it wasn't too expensive. I think it was under $200 to attend, but the networking events that they had were probably minimal, 2 hours total, because it was a day conference and we are only going to be there for 6 to 8 hours. So they had to keep that short because a lot of people are also there for their CEs, and you got to eat as well, and you got to have breaks, and you got to have restroom and stuff. So I found myself networking more while at the table, not trying to be disrespectful to the speakers, but also just trying to network whenever we had a chance, because for me, that's what I was really getting some of the some of the quality and the best use of my time while I was there. Also learning more about that industry. Okay. Some of the threats that I've seen as of recent has been AI. I know that job automation for coding is somewhat far off, but I hope everybody understands. Right now, companies are spending millions, if not billions of dollars to crack the code. And we all know what's going to happen. Once one person cracks it, everybody's going to crack it, because they're going to realize how they cracked it. If you do you guys and ladies remember, was it Dave Bannister? James Bannister? Anyway, the gentleman that cracked the 4 minute mile. After he cracked it, high schoolers were running 4 minute miles. Right now, the 4 minute mile is like a standard, right? Or you can even get on the treadmill and just, hey, I got to do this for 4 minutes and I'm good. Because once you know something has been done, that it's not impossible, it also makes it possible for you. There's also the law of exposure. The law of exposure says that once you've been exposed to something, you can't be unexposed to something. So, AI is definitely going to be a threat to a lot of folks within our industry, but I don't know. Don't hold me to it. I think we are a little bit far off from there. Okay, that's coming down the future. That's why it's also going to be very important for those folks that may not have it just yet to definitely get your education, right? Get your credentials, and also don't just think about what you're doing. Also have a thorough understanding of what the people above and below you are doing, meaning your bosses and your subject matter expertise and those kinds of things. Because if, let's say, automation comes in and they're doing all of the coding right now, what are you going to do? Maybe you need to get into auditing. Maybe you need to have some more experience on the back end working with denials. Like, understanding where you can possibly lead is going to help you. I didn't immediately think that being a recruiter, I can have let's say, an opportunity to run my own recruiting and staffing services firm, but that's where the opportunity led me. But I definitely knew that this was an in-demand skill set. A lot of companies are also not necessarily training their recruiters to recruit coders. For example, I was talking to a client last week, and she said she got a price sheet from one of her vendors because they have a very long, drawn out vendor application process. So they couldn't go out and get new vendors. They talked to a couple very popular names, and they're like, hey, can you get us coders? And what did they say? No, of course I'm going to say yes. So they say yes. They get them the coders, but when they price them, they price the ED higher than inpatient coding because they read ED, they read emergency department, and they thought, hey, that's more urgent. That's going to be more expensive. So they were charging that client more for ED than inpatient. Crazy, right? Who would do that? Nobody would do that, but they did. Anyway, once the once the hospital director found out, because it was just a really crazy time, they're just like, hey, get us the people, we need 10 people, we are doing all of these things, before you know it, and they lost a contract because they did not understand, and not even just understand the job description and recruiting people, they didn't understand how coding worked as a whole. So that's one thing about niches. Hey Henry, I see you, it's been so long, we should definitely connect and catch up after this, okay? But pleasure, and thank you for chiming in. Anyway, so AI is somewhat off, and Henry just mentioned that in his industry, he's working now more on the technical side. We actually got started in recruiting. Well, I started in recruiting. He's been a veteran. I started recruiting HM back in 2011 when he started with the same firm. So that goes back. Thank you for joining. And threats is definitely hard to get, a very hard skill set. So what that means is that we are not training our people, and we are not getting people internally. On the technical side, you have to understand why a lot of people are being brought over here from India. Okay, I have nothing against people coming in from other countries. Okay, I have a large family background from the Caribbean, and now through my wife's side in Korea. So I'm not going to disrespect our heritage. But what I'm talking about is there are a lot of jobs, especially on the technical side. Let's say it's for software development. A lot of children, and I have children too, they're not going to school saying, I want to be a software developer. I know how the apps work and things on my phone, and I don't want to be a software developer. They're not saying that. So what are these companies forced to do? They're forced to hire and even immigrate, go through the whole visa process to bring people over from India that they can get hired, and they can do the work, because a lot of folks are not being trained to do the work. I'm not saying that that's going to happen in coding right now. It's much easier for us to just have that outsourced. But what I'm saying is that if we don't provide solutions around that process, more of us that are domestic based are going to lose our jobs because we're not being trained on it. We're not specializing in it. We're just doing it, and we're happy because we're doing it. But what about helping somebody behind you? What about you being mentored to somebody? What about, and I also try to tell people that are younger, less experienced, you need to try your best to go to these conferences, meet these decision makers. But guess what? They're not going. So there's a huge threat right there, because right now, as I would see it, a lot of folks that want to get started in coding don't have that opportunity. If we're truly going based on hiring by 3 years of experience, we will end up outsourcing most of the jobs that we have in coding right now. And for some of the big players, some of the big guys, I'm talking like the big guys in our space, they're already doing it. And there are some companies that are automating coding that I've seen right now on the Profi side. So, I mean, it's already there. But hey, let's go and get started. So why have I brought us here today? Okay, what's this big announcement? Why is Bertrand talking about all this stuff? Da 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 da. Okay, let's go ahead. So I think it would be fantastic for all of us to have a bi-weekly webinar on LinkedIn Live or Zoom, whichever was going to be best to the audience. And please, I just ask your patience in this, because I'm trying my best to satisfy the audience and connect with as many people as possible. But if, let's say, for example, LinkedIn Live works and is fantastic, great. But in 2020, I did around 30 or so presentations, a lot of those on Zoom. And I know for connecting with people, allowing people to come off mute, speak up, and all those things, Zoom is like a fantastic platform. So we may do it on there, but we may do it on LinkedIn Live. But I'm also looking at options. Can we have something that taps into all of those? So I may connect with Victoria after this to see if what she thinks is the best solution. But I think having something bi-weekly, right, where it's absolutely free for employers and employees to join within our space of revenue cycle and can network for opportunities as well, we'll learn from subject matter experts. So the format that I'm proposing is to have around 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes of us inviting a subject matter experts, so we can all learn more about what they do, how they do it, and what they're well known and renowned for. And then I'll love to jump into about job opportunities. I am sharing my platform. Please understand, I have over 22 connections in one group on LinkedIn of medical coding professionals. The other one has around 10 to 15,000. Okay. Also, I'm personally connected with 15,000. So just rough math. I mean, we're looking around 50,000 people that I'm connected with. And I am allowing my platform for you to connect with those individuals, and this is for the employers. Now, why would I do this? I'm doing this because, as I said, I'm a recruiter, right? I love to connect people, but I can't always serve the people that I am serving. And what that means is a lot of times I will get an inpatient coder reaching out to me, but within my industry, maybe, or within my space, my firm, maybe I don't have a coding opening. What I do I just let that person go to the wayside? I much rather that person go to an organization and a company that has put themselves out there, or a recruiter, right? That's put themselves out there and gone ahead and connect them. And why would a employer want to do this? Okay, Bertram, why? Like, I'm hiring people, we're doing fantastic. You have to understand, it's not what you know, because a lot of people know what we know. A lot of people have our credentials, our degrees, our experience. It's not what you know. It's not who you know. You can know everybody, but when you need to hire that person, do they know you? It is who knows you, everybody. It's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And what that means is a lot of folks would say, hey, Bertram, I have a recruiting team, and they can go to the market and they have LinkedIn access. They're paying for all the expensive licenses and they can hire these coders. Fantastic. Then why are we having a conversation? And when I say that, sometimes it rubs them the wrong way. But what they have to understand is that I've been in the game since 2011. I'm not saying that I'm better than anybody, but please listen to me. When I post a job and let's say somebody is interested, I will ask them sometimes and say, hey, like, are you talking to many recruiters or and such? And a lot of times they'll say no. Bertram, this is my first time like applying to a job and you're the first recruiter I've spoken with. And then I'll say, well, why did you like send me your resume? Because I sent to anybody. And they said, well, Bertram, I know you. I know that you're usually posting jobs. I know that you've been in the industry for a while. I've heard through this person, you've helped people. So I'm coming out of my comfort zone to apply with you. And this is what comes down to branding, everyone. This is what comes down to marketing. People like to work with people that they know or that they feel that they know. Okay. I got my roof done on my house a few years ago. And it was interesting. I've been getting mailers from all different kind of companies, right? I see ads on TV, they're on our social media. Like everybody's like, hey, 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 come get your roof, get your roof. In Florida, you need to get your roof replaced every like 15 to 20 years, depending if you have a pile, shingle, whatever, right? And the company I ended up going with, I went with them because of their branding. These guys are all over town. They're loud. They have their trucks that they do the work in. They have a huge American flag hanging from the back of it. Like they're just proud Americans and US owned, and their branding caught me. Like I couldn't get them out of my head. And when it came down to doing, I did like 3 or 4 proposals from companies. Theirs wasn't too far off. Also, they were the most attentive. Like they're like, hey, you need this. We have a cost-effective solution. You don't need to replace all this. Like we have this piece of foam we can put in here. You're gonna have a nice little tilt so it doesn't like leak again. You're gonna be fine. Their expertise also spoke to me. So I said, if I'm comparing apples to apples and everybody's the same, I'm going to go with the brand that I know. And I feel like a lot of employers are missing the boat because they're not putting out content. They're not getting on these webinars. They're just going to a show, hiring or bringing all their team. And I hear when I'm at the conference that the people that want to go and meet the employees at that company are intimidated because you guys have too many people at your booth. you know it would have been fantastic if they had somebody that was branded with your company that they can say, hey, I know Bertram, I'm going to go ahead and shake Bertram's hand, and then I'll talk to them. I can introduce them to the rest of my team, so we're not just all 5 people gathering on one. So I feel like there are also not a lot of opportunities for companies to brand themselves, and it's also because it's also very expensive. I've attended within the last 5 or so years running my own agency. I've attended a lot of shows, a lot of conferences, but I have not exhibited at any conferences. Why? Because it is so expensive. Like, why do I have to spend thousands of dollars just to have a table, a banner, meet people, and give out free stuff? That's very expensive. I could be more effective with my time and with my dollars having private lunches and dinners and networking with people when I have an opportunity. that tends to be right now for me the best use of my time. When we're growing, we're bigger, we can probably even buy out the whole conference. But until we get to that point, I also believe that we are all, and I'm calling out the vendors here, you guys are all missing an opportunity to brand yourself. And you know what? Maybe you don't have to get on a weekly podcast. Maybe you don't have to do a weekly update and have people that are presentable and stuff. What I am talking about with this bi-weekly solution is that you can get with me and you can say, hey, Bertram, I'm trying to hire for these jobs. These are urgent jobs. And while we're having our bi-weekly, I'm calling it the Renown Revenue Cycle Roundup. This is a group gathering of people that are within revenue cycle that are well known. Let's say you're from ABC Company. I'm going to give you 5 or so seconds, or 5 or so minutes, I should say, to tell us what jobs you have open and available. Let them know where they can contact you or reach out to you, where they can apply and learn more, and who you are. That's it. It doesn't have to be this long, drawn out presentation. You don't have to get all your makeup on. You can keep your camera off if you like. That's perfectly fine. But I want to give you guys an opportunity to connect with people because we are also so segmented, we don't even know the people at these companies. You guys probably even know who the companies are. So let's just name a few. Imagine, Ciox, la da 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 da, Metavent, Melio. These are huge companies right now that are making waves. GHR. I can't go through all of them. Forgive me. Renown Talent as well. But do you know people at these companies? Like, if you wanted a job with these companies, do you know them? Do you know where to apply besides going to the company website? And wouldn't it be fantastic? And this is what I love to do as a recruiter. I love to represent the company that I'm working with, meaning if somebody's like, hey, I want to to know somebody at this company, people would introduce me and I would bring them in, meaning I would personally take their resume, review it, help them, take them through the application process, get them interviewed, and get them hired. I would not drop that resume until that person is hired for the company. And that's how essentially I ran my desk or my book of business. And I see this just as being a huge opportunity. For speakers as well, this would be a huge opportunity for you to be introduced to a new audience. So if you're within revenue cycle, I'd love to have you on here. As I said, we're going to do these at least 2 a month for the foreseeable future. If you'd like to get on for 15, 20, 30 minutes, we can have a really good conversation. And all I'm going to open up the conversation with is we're not going to do any scripts. All I'm going to open it up with, hey, what are you renowned about? And help us understand more about your industry and what changes, what effects, what threats, what do you see happening in your industry? And I think this is going to open a lot of our eyes. I'm also going to be learning a lot too, because I can't say that I learn it, that I know everything, but from a lot of the speaking opportunities, interesting. A lot of the associations and the chapter presidents associations that I've had the pleasure of speaking, or associations that I've had pleasure of speaking, all of those people are leading those are subject matter experts. So immediately your willingness to speak and work with those individuals just opens up your network. So I think we can definitely learn from a lot from each other and collaborating. And candidates as well, I'd love for you guys to come on and for you to have your resumes ready, for you to be able to say, hey, I am an inpatient coder of 5 years of experience and I am looking for a job. You may have a concern, and I thought about this. Don't know everything, but I thought about this. You may have a concern, well, Bertram, what if I'm working for ABC Company, right? And I throw my name out there like I'm looking for a job. Okay? Okay, why don't we do this? why don't you why don't you have a referral? Hey, I happen to know somebody, Bertram, that's looking for a job. They are an inpatient coder of 5 years. I'm not putting any resumes on this podcast. I'm not all on this show. I'm not going to put that out there. But I'd love for you to have your resume ready. That way, if ABC Company presents and they're ready to go, and you're like, wow, I'm interested in learning more about ABC Company, you can send it to them. Also, to help us get more employers and people involved in this, I'd also love for you during the calls to share more about your experience. Hey, Bertram, I'm an outpatient same-day surgery coder. I have all my credentials and I need a job. Once they see people are paying attention and once they see that people are interested in what we have to present and that the audience that we're bringing, it's only going to benefit you as an audience. So, Sarah, I love you. Sarah, I'd love to have you on the show as well. So pause real quick. Sarah Reagan. Sarah Reagan has been a connection. I think we definitely had the pleasure of speaking, or I spoke with a chapter that you were running or participating at the time. As of recent, I saw your milestone and congratulations. She spoke to at least one association or chapter in all 50 states in the United States. Do I have that correct? Jennifer, thank you so much. I really appreciate your feedback. So what I'm going to do is I am going to start going through the comments because we are getting a lot of comments. Okay. All right. Victoria, definitely the next time you're either in Orlando or Disney, we may want to coordinate something. I usually have my family with me if that's okay, but we can definitely like I mean, there's so many lines at Disney, so I can let the family do something and then we can always just have a quick chat or grab something. Okay. So, John, again, thank you so much for your feedback. Really appreciate it. Misty, this is exactly what the industry needs. I really think so. I'm just going to be able to host this through Renowned Talent. This is not just a branding perspective kind of thing. This is really to help you guys. And I feel I spoke to one of my clients the other day, and they're like, "Well, Bertram, if you're helping us like post jobs and get connected with people that we can hire, like how are you getting paid? Like, don't worry about it. The universe, God, Allah, Buddha, whoever you believe in, they're going to take care of me. Like, we are very okay. But I know in helping people, they will usually be able to help you back somewhere in the future. So don't necessarily worry about any type of a fee or, subscribing to us or anything like that. But, I think just us working together and us helping each other, that's really what the industry needs at this time. Okay. Love what you said, collaboration over competition, you know. Like if we want to compete, we can compete, but when you're open to collaborate, that's when you can really move the tide, okay? Okay. Marilyn has mentioned that she would love to connect on helping her code instance find better jobs as they become certified. So I know I'm one person or one speaker that has a whole talk about how people can use networking and social media to get hired and to get connected. But yeah, that's definitely something that we are going to have and a topic that I'm going to have. Okay, I'm going to share dates here. In a second as well. Okay. All right. 1 second. So Missy, I'm going to be sharing more information about how or what the next steps are going to be just in 1 minute. So this is the perfect example. Okay. So I've been preparing for my job hunt ever since January. Created a spreadsheet of employers, link websites. She has nearly 300 companies. Okay. However, there's no personal connection that way. I believe that the component is very important. So what she's talking about is, wouldn't it be fantastic at ABC company that she would know somebody at that company? And you know what's interesting? All throughout my career, even now running my own agency, I've also helped people. So there are a few companies in our industry that hire more entry level coders. And I would ask that representative, like, hey, can you give me your information? Because I have a lot of people that reach out to me and I love to share your information with them so you can help them get hired. And I had one person and they applied on the website and they didn't hear anything. Maybe even their application got denied. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand right now, AI or there's an automated process that is usually screening resumes. So somebody can be a very good fit, but just from the jump, their application gets denied. Maybe that doesn't even know what they're talking to, or the resume that the person has doesn't use a lot of the same lingo, words, and terminology that the job posting has. So AI thinks it's not a match. So they just say no. But when I connected that person with that recruiter, guess what happened? She got a job at that company. Okay. And that was totally not through us. So, it's just a huge opportunity that I think we have right now in our industry. And I just love my to try my best to just connect people and get people hired and just I want to also collaborate with a lot more companies. And, back on the competition thing, to share the truth with you as to how I've been able to run my agency for the last 5 or so years. I've also had the pleasure of working with a lot of companies, a lot of vendors to help them find great talent, whether it be recruiters or salespeople, or sometimes coders, right? And they're like, "Well, Bertrand, why would they hire you?" It's because I know people. And the interesting thing, so very first coding recruiting job that I had, I worked with a team of close to like 20, or more amazing people. Now, a lot of those individuals have gone off to either start their own company or they've worked with some of the big firms that we know. So you can name a company in our space, and I probably know somebody that works there, and I've worked closely with them. So it's connections and having those opportunities, and also that was an on-site job for most of the time. And if I didn't have that opportunity, we wouldn't be where we're at today. So I've already been collaborating with those companies. I don't necessarily look at them as competitors because a lot of them are actually, my vendors, and people that we work with. So my clients, I should say, not vendors. Okay, cool. So what would be the next steps? So the next steps is definitely to follow me as well as Renowned Talent on LinkedIn, because whether we're going to keep this on live stream, depending on the turnout, or if we're just going to host it on a Zoom, and I'll allow each and every one of you to raise your voice and put your hand up and all those things. I definitely know through the platform that as we have right now, we can have once 1 to 10 speakers at a time. I definitely know that's a possibility. So if we have employers that are able to speak, or if we can just speak for those employees and let them know where to go, that's definitely possible. But just because I don't necessarily know if we'll be able to keep this on LinkedIn, LinkedIn Live, that I think it'll be fantastic for you to at least follow us. Also, it'll be great for you to sign up. So I have, oh, and the P just got cut off there, sorry. So we have a sign up sheet on our website. So that's Renowned Talent at Roundup /, roundup. Okay, so / roundup. And what that is that's for you to either identify as a speaker, possible speaker, a candidate or employer, and just fill out your information. Just let us know where we can contact you. And based upon the profile or the people that would be there, we're going to be reaching out. So first, we're probably going to reach out to the employers so we can iron something out or a format as to how you like to present your jobs, or let people know, share people more about your company so they can know where to find you, what you have available, and where you specialize in. Okay. For the candidates, that's also going to be able to help you. And I'm thinking about doing something where, let's say we have a candidate database of 300 or so people. Maybe you were not able to join, the live show and the live webinar. We can definitely go ahead and push out that information to you so nobody misses it. So that's also something that we're looking at doing. As I said, we're not going to be looking to spam your mailbox, but wouldn't it be awesome to have one centralized place where you can get a lot of this information? Another opportunity that I forgot to mention a little bit earlier is that we are so segmented in how we are posting jobs. Some companies are very restrictive on what their recruiters or people post jobs out there. Some people post jobs on Facebook, some people post jobs on LinkedIn, some people use Indeed, some people use smoke signals. Like, it's all over the place. But when it would come to employer job opportunities in our space, and also people looking to get hired, instead of sending them to Bertram or sending them to this recruiter or this recruiter, wouldn't you just send them to the Roundup? Hey, talk to Bertram, or he has a roundup every 2 weeks. So we're looking at both the first and the third Wednesday of every month. Okay, so the first one is going to be next week Wednesday. So next week Wednesday is our first roundup. I'm going to go ahead and get that scheduled right after this. So next week Wednesday, this September 6th, we're having the first one. Wouldn't it be fantastic to say, hey, if you're looking for jobs opportunities and if you're domestic or US based, you should be on the Renown Revenue Cycle Roundup? That's really the point as to what I would like to get this to. And employers, if you have the same job opportunities every single week, and I'm talking about urgent openings. I'm not talking about building your pipeline, folks. I'm talking like, hey, Bertram, if I find that person, they're getting hired like ASAP. Or let's say you're either in a health system. If you're a health system in a hospital and you need to hire people, let us get in contact with your HR department so we can get those jobs on the roundup. Let us help them, you know, find people for those jobs, because that's the thing. They don't even know where to go. They're not on the LinkedIn groups because they may not be accepted. Okay. They're probably not in the Facebook groups as well. I would love for the roundup to be just a one point source within revenue cycle. Then people can go for jobs and opportunities. Yes, we're not going to get everybody, but you know what? We can surely try. And why shouldn't we try? So the next steps for each and every one of you would be to follow me on LinkedIn, follow Renowned Talent as well. Candidates and employers, definitely sign up on Renowned Talent / roundup with a P. I'm sorry, you just got caught off there. So, and speakers, so sign up please, so we can get your information, so we can start getting information out to you and let you know when the next one is going to be and all of those details. Okay. How we can help? We're definitely going to need speakers. So we're looking at 20 to 30 minute, quick QA sessions. This is just going to be live and direct. We'll probably also take some questions from the audience, and I think that's going to be awesome. Candidates, if you're ready for your job, do you have your resume ready? And I'd love for you to help summarize it as your skill set, your experience level, and how soon you can start. And I said earlier, if you're concerned about an employer finding out that you're looking for jobs and opportunities, what you can also do is just let them know or let us know that you have a referral that's interested. And we'll let you and ABC company take care of it. And we'll definitely need employers to help us with the urgent roles that you have to fill. A lot of times when people go to LinkedIn and are looking for job opportunities, it's because they're really looking for job opportunities. And what I mean by that, a medical coder, for example, inpatient coder, they're working, they're not spending a lot of time on LinkedIn usually in the mornings. If that person is not working, they're probably on LinkedIn a lot more than you would likely see. And I definitely don't necessarily see us not getting or not expanding this, let's say for case management. A lot of revenue cycle companies have gone into case management, okay, whether that be nursing and stuff. We could go there, but let's just look at revenue cycle right now and we'll see where the roundup goes from there, okay? So what I would like to do is I'd like to open it up for any questions or any feedback. We are approaching an hour. In 10 or so minutes. We can definitely go longer if the time permits and if you guys would need to and ladies would need to. So yeah, let's go ahead and hit me with any questions that you may have or any feedback. What do you guys think about the roundup so far? Already have one sign up. Fantastic. Thank you. So I really appreciate you saying so. Love the concept, and I can see this being a great success over time. And I think that is exactly it. It may not necessarily be a home run from from the first one. We may even have more technical difficulties uh, than successes in the first one. But that's the thing, and that's what I've never been afraid of. When I was first posting jobs on LinkedIn, I remember sometimes I'd even have typos. And due to those typos, some folks would be like, Bertram, I'm not going to apply to your company if you can't spell inpatient coding. And I'm like, I know how to spell inpatient coding. It's called a typo. But if you're going to like not want to apply to me because of a typo, then that's okay, you know. But being afraid to put yourself out there because you're afraid to make a mistake or something's not going to go right would prevent us from a lot of opportunities. And if a typo is like the worst mistake I can make on a job post or putting myself out there, goodness gracious, you know, like I don't think okay. I don't think the man above looks at a typo as a sin. So I'm not gonna be afraid to post something. And you know what's a wonderful thing? Once I realize it's a typo, I thank the person for notifying me so I can update it in the next post, or I can take that post down and just post it again. So that's absolutely fine. But yeah, Felicia Thomas, really appreciate you. Thank you for saying so. Thank you for the feedback. Ryan, as I said, you may have like I think you would have a great talk or be somebody great to feature um, on the roundup as well, just because of all the credentials and subject matter expertise that you're bringing to the table. So I appreciate you as well. Tara, thank you for thinking outside the box, always offering your expertise. This is awesome. And I think, yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, I see the evolution of recruiting not being in just posting jobs and like AI does that right now. You know, you can have there's AI that you can put the job in and let it publish and it will send it to different places. There are even like ZipRecruiter and those things. They will actually publish the job to you for you to like 12 to 20 websites. So the publishing and us actually taking our time to do that isn't what really an employer or recruiter should spend a lot of their time in doing, right? But I think really the branding and us setting ourselves apart from the crowd is what's really going to help all of us be, be very successful. So thank you for that feedback. Appreciate you as well, Sarah, and your mention of the confidence. I'm not confident at all. I'm actually very anxious. If anything, and you know what's funny? Like I am a true introvert. And I don't think anybody has really realized this. I'm introverted to the core. Like I'll be in a group of people and I'm like probably very quiet. But if we get talking and if we are, involved in something that I'm passionate about, I tend to open up and I tend to be a lot more confident in those things that I know a lot about. Um, and I think this is actually the first LinkedIn Live or YouTube Live that I've done. but that's absolutely fine. Like, we'll get through it. So today I have my background blurred. I probably won't do that again because I can see like parts of my neck getting chopped off. But that's okay. Like, it's all a learning process. So all right. So Betty, sign up to be a speaker, please. So Betty just mentioned, is there's if there's any way that she can help, and I'd say I'd love for you to be a speaker. Betty is someone that's definitely, if there's anything in regarding to our industry and CMS, or what more of the legal changes and stuff that's going, she definitely has something to say about that. Betty also speaks all of the time, like all over the country. So even traveling sometimes as well. She's also residing in my sunny state of Florida. So would love to connect with you as well. But yeah, last but not least, I just thought about this, somewhat of a spur in the moment. It's very hard for anyone to get a recruiter's time and for us to spend time with you guys as much as we would like to. But I would also love to open it for any questions that folks may have about either the industry, about the roundup, or anything. Just a last call for any questions before we close up this live announcement. So yes, once again, so we're looking at September 6th and September 20th as our first two schedule roundups. I'm currently in conversations with employers as well as speakers to get them locked in. And as I mentioned, it doesn't necessarily have to be something via video. If you're an employer and you're looking to hire, I'd love to showcase your company and what you guys are doing. I'd love to just share the links or email addresses. If you're a recruiter working for any of these companies, I would encourage you to go ahead and reach out to me and let me post one of your jobs. You want to know why? It's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. And what I mean by that is, hey, I showcased our jobs on this broadcast. Don't do that. Oh, okay. You're not going to get fired for something like that. But if I had to ask permission for every time I had to go out of my comfort zone to do something, then they want to get HR approval, they want to get legal involved, and what if you put your foot in your mouth? I mean, I think from these days, if you're not doing something illegal, if you're not showing that you're partying and getting drunk every single weekend or some substance abuse or something, and if you're not posting a lot of things politically on your social media handles, it should be absolutely fine. Um, I don't necessarily care either way because you know we are independent within our own company, so we have our own guidelines and our own requirements on those things. But if you're working for a larger company, that might be something to contend with. But if you had the chance to watch this and you're like, Bertram's willing to share with me his network of over 50,000 people and share my jobs, I could probably hire some people. Why wouldn't you do it? Better to try and see what happens than to not try and let somebody else get all the wins. One of the things that I did, and I think I won a lot in 2011 when I first started posting jobs on LinkedIn, is that not a lot of people were doing it. You get out there, you're one of the first, you're going to reap a lot of the rewards. Okay. After Zuckerberg created Facebook, well, him and his team created Facebook. What did everybody else try to do? Hey, let's create social media channels. But what happened? Facebook already had majority share. Not only that, they also got us for the next 10 years and we posted our pictures and our memories. And as much as we want to delete Facebook, what happened? They were one of the first apps that were able to capture it. You have MySpace and stuff, you can put music and pictures and all that stuff, but Facebook really made it accessible for a lot of us to do and easier for us to do. So being one of the first in the industry is it's huge. I wouldn't have been here today if I didn't put my life on a limb, I would say, and post those jobs. It wasn't easy. It's really out of my comfort zone. But put yourself out there, and that's where all the opportunities will come. So all right, so I am getting more signups on the Renown Talent /roundup. So thank you so much for signing up. And if you're an employer, if you're a speaker, if you're a candidate, sign up so we can get the information out to you. We can get you locked in for the dates. And we're looking at the first and third Wednesday. If we have a holiday, or I know, like for example, for November, we are going to have Thanksgiving right around the second one. That one will probably be delayed, or we probably won't have it for that month, but we're definitely looking forward to having it every single month. Okay, so once again, this is Bertrand for Renown Talent. It's been a pleasure to speak with you, share with you what I see as opportunity within our field, and not just that, as to how each of us can get involved. And if this is not something that can help you, I'm very sure that it can help somebody that you're connected to. So if you know an employer, if you know a recruiter that's always trying to hire people, if you know a speaker that can use a little time during their lunch break, if they're Eastern Standard Time, first thing in the morning, Western Standard Time, and just introduce themselves to a new audience and just to get a lot of more of that branding opportunity. Because that's the thing, once you have brand and once you put yourself out, that's where a lot of the opportunities come. When I first started speaking and putting myself out there, hey, I can help you, I'm a speaker, a lot of folks just accepted my request because they knew Bertrand's been putting out a lot of content. And before I did that, I was actually doing the Ask a Recruiter series. So I was getting on, on video for 10, 15, 20 minutes talking about different topics and putting it out there. It didn't really gain a lot of traction, and that's perfectly fine, but that led me to do speaking. And the interesting thing is that the speaking led me to land some really big clients. One of them that I mentioned to you is one of the largest employers in Florida. And I didn't get that by posting jobs on LinkedIn. I got that from speaking and putting myself out there as a subject matter expert. So once again, really appreciate and love each and every one of you. Betty, thank you as well. Each of you have a fantastic Monday, and I look forward to seeing you on the roundup next week, Wednesday. Okay, sign up so we can send you the details, and follow me on LinkedIn and follow Renown Talent as well. I hope each of you have a fantastic day, a fantastic week, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you, Sarah. Have a good one. Bye bye.